Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game with over 100 cards, and 99% of those cards are bad. However, these bad cards still make it into players' Edison Format decks every single day. Join me as I dive deep into the abyss of bad card design and put these unloved pieces of cardboard to the ultimate test. 3 duels against random strangers on the internet. At the end of each episode, we'll reveal each card's place on the cursed tech tier list, ranking them from almost competitive to downright unplayable trash. Will we stumble upon a broken combo, invent a new deck, or will we just go insane trying to win a duel using Frog the Jam? You will just have to wait and find out. This is Cursed Tech. Hello everyone and welcome to Cursed
Tech Tuesday.
My name is Bryce and today we have a very special episode for you guys. We're looking at a card that would make a very particular British man say,
"Another marvelous loco."
Bokoichi the Frightening card. It's actually, I know it looks like frightening, but it's frightening because it's a freight train. Bokoichi the Frightening car was released in 2004 in Rise of Destiny, alongside its partner in transport, Dakoichi the Battle-Chanted Locomotive. Bokoichi is a level 2 dark normal monster with 500 attack and 500 defense. Its text reads, a freight car that is exclusively for Dakoichi. It can transport anything, but most cargo arrives broken. Although Bokoichi is absolutely terrible at its one job of transporting objects in its cars, that does not stop its lifelong collaboration with its said conductor, maybe part of its body. I don't really know the whole anatomy of the trains, but partner in transport, conductor, body part, Dakoichi, the battle-chanted locomotive. And Dakoichi is very different from Bokoichi in that it's actually seen play in competitive decks throughout Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Most people think Dakoichi only has one effect, to draw a card. But in reality, its effect is a little bit more Bokoichi dependent. It reads, flip, draw 1 card. If you have face-up Bokoichi the Frightening car cards, I don't know, on your side of the field, draw an additional card for each of them. But unfortunately for Yu-Gi-Oh players, this extended effect has never resolved until today, because we are going to be trying to make use of this combo in Edison Format, and you can tell I'm using combo in the loosest terms possible. First, you set Dakoichi. Then you can normal summon Bokoichi on the next turn and activate Machine Duplication. This will summon out 2 more Bokoichis from the deck. And finally, you can flip up Dakoichi and draw 4 cards. Obviously, this is a terrible combo. It's probably not going to work, but what can you blame Bokoichi for that? It was printed in 2004. Now let's see what 2010 has to say about it. Here is my Edison deck list. Behold, my Cursed Tech Bokoichi deck list. Honestly, Bokoichi is a level 2 normal monster, but somehow I believe it has found a home in Edison Format in this weird dark machine quick draw list. So let's talk about the card by card and say what this deck does. You are running Gores because it is the best hand trap in the format. Fortunately for us, Bokoichi is a dark monster, so Dad feels right at home in this deck. Black Salvo is played in a lot of Edison decks that use Dakoichi because it is a level 4 dark machine. But did you know Black Salvo is also a machine duplication target? In this deck, Black Salvo has a great home. It is able to make a Black Rose Dragon in the late game in order to blow up your opponent's field and get back into the game. Dakoichi is great to control the game. It is a great card that sees fringe playability in Edison Format, and it is part of our main combo, so of course we're playing 3 of it. And have you ever looked at the art of Dakoichi? Have you ever really looked at the battle-chanted locomotive? Have you seen what's in the background of Dakoichi's art? Do those look like cars? Do they look like train cars? Well, now if you look over at the Bokoichi Frightening car artwork, do you see this? That's Dakoichi right there. These are the same image from 2 separate angles. If that doesn't make you love this deck, I don't know what will. We are also playing Machina Gear Frame and Machina Fortress. These Machina monsters work great in any machine deck in Edison format. Gear Frame being an inherent +1 on normal summon is incredible. Machina Fortress is an excellent boss monster that gets to rip a card out of your opponent's hand if it's targeted, or destroy any card on the field if it is destroyed by battle. Also, it can summon itself from the hand by discarding any machine monster basically, and that is great when you're running a bunch of machine monsters that are not very good. Now we've got some quick draw cards. Quick draw is excellent in this deck. It also can synchro with Bokoichi the Frightening Car, which is a level 2, to make your Nitro Warrior one of the best boss monsters in this deck, because you run a lot of spells like Machine Duplication and Pot of Avarice that you can make it gain 1000 attack. You've also got the Dandelions, which work great with the Quick Draw, and the Tuning Wares, which work great with Machine Duplication and Quick Draw as well. It can be treated as a level 1 or level 2 monster when it's used for a synchro summon, and when it's used in a synchro summon, you can draw 1 card. Cyber Valley is great in any machine duplication deck. Bokoichi is the heart and soul of this deck, and we are trying to use it as much as possible and as many different ways as possible. And one way you can use it is by banishing it off of Allure of Darkness. Mind Control is amazing with the amount of tuners you have, and it is great for your Cyber Valleys, which you run 3 of. Brain Control fills the same purpose, but slightly better. Heavy Storm is great to remove back row along the MST. Machine Duplication, you have an insane amount of targets in this deck because you have 3, 6, 9, 10, 11. You're running 2 Pot of Avarice because you are already running enough bricks. You don't need to run the 3rd one. And finally, we've decided to go with a suite of protection battle traps. These are great because you are trying to set Koichi and then flip it on your next turn, not during your opponent's turn when it's attacked into. So in order to do that, you need to protect it. The side deck is a pretty standard Edison format side deck, and the extra deck has lots of good stuff along with your Drill Warrior for the quick draws, the Nitro Warrior for the quick draw to synchro with the Bokoichi, as well as Road Warrior, which in this deck is sort of a boss monster because he can summon out a level 2 machine from the deck. Did I mention that Bokoichi is a level 2 machine? Let's get into the duels. This first game, we are up against Burn. And I know what you're thinking, Burn in Edison format, but this game does a good job of showing off exactly what this deck is trying to do. You can see in this opening hand, Koichi, Bokoichi, Machine Duplication, the God combo, the Holy Trinity. We set 1 Koichi and a bluff, and we pass back to our opponent. It's finally going to happen. Our opponent sets 1 card and passes back to us, and we draw a Bokoichi for turn. That's okay, we can still draw 3 as long as we can make this play go through, but unfortunately for us, our opponent has the set Jar of Greed. They're going to draw 1 card, and we are going to normal summon Bokoichi, activate Machine Duplication, summoning out 1 more from the deck because 1 is unfortunately in our hand, and then we can flip to Koichi and draw 3 cards. We draw into a Fortress, which is really good. We summon it, go to the battle phase, try to attack, and run straight into a Battle Fader. Our opponent uses Cyber Valley to draw 2 cards off the Battle Fader, and then sets 5. We go to the battle phase and try to attack. We have a bunch of high attack monsters, but our opponent is playing Burn, and they have set 5 cards. So they activate a Dimension Wall, making us take the damage instead of them, and things are not looking good for us. We have a lot of high attack monsters, but we don't have a lot of versatility or utility to get rid of what our opponent is doing. And when Burn starts moving, it is really hard to stop. So we summon another Gear Frame, get another Fortress, and then pass back to our opponent. Our opponent Lava Golems us, which is not great. They use Jar of Greed just so they can set another card, and we draw this MST. We decide our only option is really to summon a bunch of high attack monsters and try to get in the damage. We blind snipe a back row, which happens to be Reckless Greed, and I see the writing on the wall. This next game, we are up against Crystal Beasts, and this does a good job of showing off what the deck does when it's not doing Bokoichi to Koichi stuff. So our opponent sets 1 and passes. We summon Quick Draw and then activate Machine Duplication on Tuning Ware. This is great because Tuning Ware, when it's used for a synchro summon, you can draw 1 card from your deck. So what we do now is we are able to summon a Road Warrior, draw 2 cards off the Tuning Wares, and summon out a Cyber Valley from the deck using the Road Warrior. So we draw into some great back row and disruption, and we are able to summon the Cyber Valley from the deck. Then we can activate the Cyber Valley to banish itself and the Tuning Ware to draw 2 more cards and draw into a Bokoichi. Although it is a normal monster, it is also a machine, and that is all we need sometimes. So we activate Heavy Storm to clear the way, summon Fortress discarding the machine, and we can go to the battle phase and get in for some huge damage, and then we can set 1 card and pass the turn. We are looking very good in this position. Our opponent sets 3 cards and passes. We can summon out another Cyber Valley, and we run into one of the most amazing techs I've ever seen, which is Needle Sealing. Because it only destroys face-up monsters, our opponent keeps their face down, and we have all of our cards destroyed, which is just
incredible, and one of the reasons why I wanted to show this replay. But even though we just lost 3 cards for no reason, we can still come back from this game. We were able to summon Fortress, summon Gear Frame, search for a Fortress, and then we are going to pass our turn. We still have this back row, so we are not going to set the Deep Prison. Our opponent summons this weird cat Crystal Beast card, attacks us for 600 life points directly, and yeah, I don't think you want to be in that position. So now we can just snipe a random back row, which happens to be Judgment, brain control the monster, and that is going to be the game. And now we have a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent is on Sworn, and we are going first. We set a Koichi and then pass our turn. Our opponent sets 2 cards and then passes the turn back to us. We have Allure of Darkness, so we're able to activate that, and then we can banish a Koichi from our hand, and we have the Cyber Valley Mind Control play, which is obviously very good. We're going to Mind Control our opponent's monster, and they are going to chain Call of the Haunted, summoning Christia from the graveyard. They are probably doing this because they have a hamster, and they fear us having a Raikou in our deck. But we do not play Raikou, so we are just going to flip up the hamster, normal summon Cyber Valley, and then draw 2 cards from our deck by banishing both. We draw into some decent cards, and we are able to set a back row and pass. This MST is great because it is going to be able to snipe that Call of the Haunted, and fortunately for us, our opponent summons a Lila. This means that it is going to be turned to defense position, and we can chain the back row in order to clear the Christia, and this Lila cannot attack over our Dekoichi. Things are going well for us, and we are able to do the cursed play of normal summoning a Bakoichi, and then flipping up Dekoichi, and we are able to Pot of Greed. We are able to draw 2 cards from our deck, and in this scenario, we draw into a Pot of Avarice and a Dekoichi, which is very good. We can then do one of my favorite plays this deck can do, which is summon Quick Draw from our hand. And Quick Draw is a level 5, and Bakoichi is a level 2. This means we can go into a Nitro Warrior, which has a very high attack stat and a very good effect that could come up in the future. Now we can set the Mirror Force, and our opponent is actually going to summon Gores. But fortunately for us, we have this Mirror Force, and this Nitro Warrior is slightly bigger than the Gores, so we should be sitting pretty. Our opponent has the Lila to break our Mirror Force, and they can clear our Dekoichi, but this Nitro Warrior is sticking around. And now we can normal summon Gear Frame, search for Fortress, summon the Fortress by discarding the Dekoichi, and we have 5 monsters to activate Pot of Avarice. This Pot of Avarice is especially great because it will give our Nitro Warrior 1000 attack because the spell card is activated, and we are going to be doing Nitro Warrior shenanigans in this turn. We can shuffle back all 5 monsters and then draw 2 cards from our deck, and those cards will be Gear Frame and Dekoichi. Not that great, but that is okay because we can attack into the Gores, switch this token to attack into it, and again, this guy has 3800 attack. We can attack over the Lila and then attack for 25, putting him out of brain control range, and we are able to win game 1. Alright, in game 2 we are going second, and we draw an unfortunately terrible hand. Our opponent is going to normal summon a Lila, set a back row, and then mill 3 cards in the end phase. We draw a Quick Draw, which is honestly extremely bad, and this Lila can kill our Deep Prison, so we just have to pass again. Our opponent normal summons a Jane, and they attack with both. So we're getting low, and if we do not find something on this next turn, we are going to be in a terrible position. They mill some more names, and pass back to us. Cyber Valley is really good in this instance because we can brain control the Lila, activate Lila's effect once we get it to destroy their back row, which thank God we did this because it was the Royal Oppression. Now we can normal summon Cyber Valley and activate Machine Duplication on the Cyber Valley to get 2 more Cyber Valleys out of the deck. Now we can banish the Lila and one of our Cyber Valleys to draw 2 cards from our deck, and we draw into a Tuning Wear, 2 Tuning Wears I guess, and now we can special summon Quick Draw Synchron by discarding a Tuning Wear and go into a Drill Warrior. We are quite afraid of Honest, so we decided to half its attack and attack directly. This was not a good play in the end because he did not have Honest, so we kind of just did this for no reason. Then we can activate Drill Warrior's effect, discarding a card to banish it, set Deep Prison, and pass. Now we are going to get punished for not attacking over that Jane because he has Celestial. This will pop both of our cards that could have gotten value, so we just get destroyed. They mill 4 cards, and then they summon JD, and that is the end of game 2. Now it is time for that all-important game 3, and I know I'm quoting someone who's quoting someone else, but you know, that's fine. Our hand looks pretty dang good. We have a Gear Frame. We are able to normal summon the Gear Frame, search for a Fortress, and then pass our turn. Our opponent normal summons a Jane, they attack over our gear frame, dealing us a little bit of damage, and then they set a back row and pass our turn. And that back row is going to cause us lots of trouble. This hand looks pretty good. We've got a lot of plays going on, and a DD Crow to stop their Light Sworns and Fairies. We try to summon the Fortress, and they flip up the Royal Oppression. And this Royal Oppression is going to ruin our day. We set a Dandelion and a back row out of desperation and then pass our turn. Our opponent summons an Aaron, which would be really bad for us if we did not have this Mirror Force. So we were able to Mirror Force both of his monsters, but to be honest, things are not looking very good. We draw a Quick Draw, which would be incredible if we had something to get rid of this Royal Oppression, but we do not. So we decide to make a play of desperation. We normal summon the Quick Draw. Our opponent negates the summon of the Dandy tokens with the Royal Oppression, and then we can DD Crow one of our opponent's Light Sworns. We also target a Fairy as well, because it is the Celestia, which is both. And then here we have 5 monsters in order to Pot of Avarice. Honestly, we need Heavy Storm plus Deep Prison. I don't know what. Honestly, there's not a lot of great things, but we are in a terrible situation. This single Royal Oppression has ruined this deck's day because, I mean, what can I say? It likes to special summon quite a lot. I even think I don't even know. So I draw into 2 terrible cards, Pot of Avarice plus Dekoichi, which is a staple of this deck. So what can I say? I can't complain. Our opponent normal summons a Lumina, I believe, attacks over our Quick Draw, mills 3 in the end phase, and then passes their turn. We are able to set a Dekoichi and then pass back, and we are about to be blown out by this Celestia, which is a normal summon, so we cannot negate it with this Royal Oppression, which pops both of our cards, getting absolutely no value at all. So at this point, the game is pretty much over. We can make a semi-cute play this next turn by normal summoning Black Salvo and not activating its effect. Because it's not activating an effect to special summon, they cannot negate it with Royal Oppression. We can activate Brain Control, get in some damage, and then try to make a Synchro 8, but to be honest, they can just negate the Synchro with Royal Oppression, so it is not going to matter, and I think I have seen enough. And now for the part you have all been waiting for, the Cursed Tech tier list, where we will determine where Bokoichi stands, or rolls. I don't know. Although Bokoichi does literally nothing on its own, its level and machine typing make it feel like less of a brick than it actually is. While its power comes from a fragile combo, its synergy within the deck shell makes it so you might be able to steal a few wins against the top decks. Just like so many other machine monsters in Edison, at the end of the day, being Fortress fodder is never that bad, which is why we are placing Bokoichi in the middle of the tier list. It is fun, it's cheesy, and I mean, if you like it, put it in your deck. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is all about attempting silly combos like this. It makes you feel more like Kaiba, scheming every turn, attempting to draw all 3 Blue Eyes so he can finally summon the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. It's in no way competitive, but to be honest, it doesn't really have to be. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game of possibilities. I mean, there's over 100 cards in this game, and your opponent might have any one of them in their deck. But before this video, would you have ever expected one of those cards to be Bokoichi?
I'm glad I stayed up late for this. This is a treat.